but a long time ago. And even when we were in the last phase of the Marvel Cinematic of the MCU, he would post something about it, I would comment, or I would post something about it, he would comment. So now that we're in phase 4 and we have a couple of things that have been released that are setting us up, and we were like, you know what? Let's just talk about it. Like, why? Let's stop going back and forth because you can only fit so much in comments. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So we are. Well, I'm going to attempt. Again, I'm going to attempt to stay in chronological order as we discuss this where we are so far with the MCU Phase 4, and we may get caught up on some topics and things like that. And we're gonna try to stay as true to the lore as possible. And of course, some things are different in the comics, but we are focusing on the cinematic universe. I think it goes without saying, though, that there are major spoilers ahead during this show. So if you haven't seen Black Widow, WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Loki, you have been warned. Major spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen those shows, leave and you can watch it because we're going to post this on YouTube after the show is complete, so you can see it then. Okay, so MCU Phase 4 starts off with Black Widow, timeline speaking wise. So let's talk a little bit about, actually, if it's fair, I don't want to get too much into Black Widow because I felt as though her story was important because she was a major character, and I think she deserved it, and it was fun, action packed. But really, what is important through that whole thing for Phase 4 is the ending, the cutscene, the ending. So is it fair to let's just stick there? So at the end, we see an introduction of who we assume is going to be a major character in the MCU Phase 4, and that is Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. If I said that correctly. For pronunciation purposes, we're just going to call her Val, moving on to the show. So we see her at the end of Black Widow, and she is recruits Yelena, Natasha's sister, as a contract killer to take out Hawkeye.
Of all people.
Of all people, yeah. So here we have, again, it introduces a new character who I'm not going to say replaces Nick Fury, but seems to do what Nick Fury was kind of gathering, recruiting people. For what purpose, we don't know yet, because, even though there's some differences in the comic books, in the comics, she was part of S.H.I.E.L.D., she was part of Hydra, and part of, was it Leviathan, I think?
I think so, yeah.
So we don't know if it's good, bad, or what it is at this point, but we know that she's recruiting people to do stuff. We would assume that it's bad at this point because it's Hawkeye. Like, no one wants.
So why are you trying to kill Hawkeye?
Exactly. What role do you think Val is going to play in this phase?
Let's see, man. First off, like I said, if you haven't seen the movie, please mute and or leave and come back. The role she's gonna play, man, because we're gonna get into other shows. I think it's gonna want you to appear somewhere else. And like you said, it's brilliant you brought that up. She's playing like a Nick Fury role, but these roles have been kind of geared more towards, straight Black Ops work. Nick Fury was like, "Oh, I need you to join the superhero team." We kind of knew it was for like an outside alien threat that was benevolent. Like we knew, okay, these are good men getting recruited for good shit. She's coming to killers and or questionable character type of people and making questionable offers. Like it's not even like, "Hey, I'm gonna need you to come say the world." It's like, "Oh, here's my card if you want more work." And you're like,
yeah.
Okay, like
you start questioning her intentions because Nick Fury, you could kind of tell that it was noble or somewhat noble. Like there was obviously people don't do shit without having an agenda, but you were comfortable knowing the agenda wasn't anything detrimental to our heroes or to the universe. But now you kind of have no idea.
And first thing Yelena says is, "I want a raise." It's like off rip. It's not even on some like let's see.
When it's strictly driven by money, I mean, there's something else different in there. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's pretty crazy how, and even then, the disrespect of the context that she came in. Yelena wants a nice quiet moment to her sister after all these years, because it was time skip. You know what I mean? From when Black Widow Civil War to her grave, like all
Hmm.
that time passed, and the next time she sees her, as far as we know, is at this grave where she knows she's buried. But in Endgame, she was at the funeral. Now, whether that was at the time of their dropping it, or they didn't want to throw her in there necessarily. Like she wasn't at the funeral, the Avengers weren't aware of the Natasha family, but she knew where Natasha was buried. So,
So
and
there
then
had to be
Valentina
some
shows up,
sort of communication.
right?
Um,
And then Val shows up there.
yeah,
All she just interrupts her, shows up there, and then gives her work. It's like,
because
like,
she was secretive.
mm-hmm,
Black Widow, obviously, she was known by her fellow Avengers, by
mm-hmm,
Shield, and I'm assuming with the agreement that they had with the government has some knowledge of her, but she's secretive.
right,
Where she was buried, I'm assuming wouldn't just be public for everyone
right.
because, I mean, they didn't even have a big funeral for her as far as we know.
No.
So that shows that Yelena has contacts. Who does she have
Mm-hmm.
contacts with? Does she have contacts with Nick Fury? Does she have contact with the government? Or she very well could have just hacked in and found out, or maybe it was listed in the
Very
local
true.
newspaper. We don't know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but we know that at least we assume that Val, if there's, it doesn't stray too far from the comics. The
Mm-hmm.
concepts are the same. So Val was part of Shield, so Val definitely has some connection or contact with Nick Fury,
Right.
and we could assume that Yelena probably got the information there, and
Okay.
I can kind of tell from that Black Widow interaction that Val and Yelena go go back,
Yeah,
go
they
back.
put in some work
They've
over
been doing
those
some
years.
stuff, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So,
So that's where we set up. So it sets up uh, an idea that okay, we have someone recruiting someone,
mm,
but for what? And I think that was
mm,
the main contribution that Black Widow had to this next
yeah,
wave of Marvel movies.
absolutely.
So moving on to the next one in our list, which is, and I'm looking over here, guys, because I have notes. So if
I
I'm
feel
looking
that.
back and forth, I apologize. Next one we're moving on to is WandaVision.
Okay.
Now, there is
Let's
a
try.
lot to unpack with WandaVision, and
Yes.
and I really liked WandaVision. It took me a little bit to get into it,
Mm,
which
mm,
I assume was what it was the same for many people. The
mm.
iconic episode 4 is what kind of was like, all right, we've
Jesus.
got
We're
something
here.
here. Yes.
We're here.
but there's a lot to unpack here. So we're before we get into the details, let's just do a brief overview, Thomas, and say,
Okay.
how did you feel about WandaVision? Um
Um,
Overall as a series, were there some things that you thought they did fantastic, some things that you thought they could have been a little better on?
yeah. Overall, in terms of, when I see Captain Marvel, even watching Black Widow, throughout the movies, they kind of built up and referenced, like when she would come in fights, she was just like saving the world. She was splitting Thanos, Okoye and Wakanda was like, well, why was she up there? Like the
Yeah.
characters recognized how strong she was,
Yeah.
but it was just kind of off to the side. Thanos is getting split apart and he said, rain fire. And he's like, sir, he's like, which rain fire?
For
People
record,
just couldn't take
if
it.
if he didn't yell rain fire, he would have been dead. That would have
That
been
was
it.
it. That would have
Absolutely.
been it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and even before that, during Infinity War, she's holding off 5 stone Thanos with one hand while she's trying to destroy an Infinity Stone with the other hand while she's emotional and everything. So I say that to say, in terms of the girl power theme
Hmm.
that Marvel's kind of trying to usher in or that they have showcased, WandaVision was the best example of not just her acting, but then building that verse around her, having her carry it as hard as she did
Hmm.
with, Vision's help and then Monica Rambeau and Agatha and everything, but it was solely her and
Hmm.
focused on her. And that was masterful. Every episode you're thinking, damn, how is Westview? What is it? What's she doing? Is it her? I don't know. Who is it? Damn, those sword guys are assholes. Like he was flipping back and forth based
Yeah.
off of just her.
Uh-huh.
She's trying to chill. And then they're looking like the aggressors. But then someone from the town's like, she didn't she won't leave me alone. And then you're like, oh damn, chill. Oh, but you're pregnant. Oh, okay, that's fine. Damn, these people aren't moving. So it
Yeah.
was a good.
Hold on, I think we lost your audio a bit.
Oh no.
Go ahead and
Test,
speak.
test.
There you go. All right.
Okay. Yeah, I think they did that real well. I think they did her emotional range real well for someone who was supposedly, torn up and just kind of being desperate, like in her,
But
literally in
she's
her
been through a
own little
lot.
world. Yeah,
Like
from
her
her brother
parents were
dying,
blown up.
everything.
Her brother died.
Man,
She had to
she was holding
kill.
it together.
She had to kill the one she loved, and then not
Man,
only after she killed him, she had to watch him get killed by someone else again. Like
right back at it.
imagine watching your yeah. That's wild. That's crazy. So
Yeah,
that's a lot to
yeah.
put through. And when you mentioned how powerful she is, where she's literally holding this town hostage, um,
Passively, like
passively.
that was a passive.
Yeah,
Like
because
she's still using her powers while she's doing that.
while she's like sweeping the floor and shit. You know what I'm saying? She still has control
Having,
over this place,
mm-hmm,
and it shows her how powerful it is, and it shows you how much her emotions play into her power, to where she was
mm-hmm,
so desperate that she became even stronger. So what I like to compare her to, and I mean not
mm-hmm,
on basis of power, but kind of basis on realization of how powerful you
mm-hmm.
can be, is Dark Phoenix.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
because I think Scarlet Witch, who
Mm-hmm,
we see Wanda evolve into,
mm-hmm,
um, and Dark Phoenix are probably some of the most powerful magic users
mm-hmm.
in the known universe,
Yep.
um, at least on Earth. So it kind of reminded me of how Jean
Mm-hmm.
was powerful, but there was a realization that she didn't really know how powerful she was. And then here you
True.
have Wanda Maximoff, who doesn't really know how powerful she is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they did a really good job of portraying that. Um, and they definitely uh, didn't give us any inkling of who was behind this until episode
Man,
4, and I think
that part.
that was what did it, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but my reaction was like, okay, who's the bad guy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, Wanda's the bad guy. Wanda's the bad guy.
Word. I'm
But then
like,
as it goes
damn. Like,
on, you're like, wait, she's not the bad guy. This person's the
mm-hmm,
bad guy. And then it goes
mm-hmm,
on and you're like, oh shit, this person's the bad guy. But then you realize
mm-hmm.
that including Wanda, have a negative part that they've played in this
That
series.
was a
So you didn't
masterful
just have
part
one
about it.
bad person, main bad
Yes.
person. Um,
Yes.
so I think so the reviews that I saw in the first few episodes were meh, but
Mm-hmm.
after the ending, after episode 4 to the ending, they picked up big time.
Absolutely. And like you brought, like you said, everyone had their each like negative portion, even even Vision, like for Wanda to create something so sentient and then to even question her and her like whole place in it when they created when they recreated the white Vision and they had their talk and everything and he realized what he was and just had to fly away. It just goes to show how like even at the best of it, like at its height, there was still like this emotional void. Like Wanda was still, she wasn't complete. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? She just lost her kids, right? So she figured she needs some new apocalyptic witch savior form. And like you said, she realized how powerful she was until I like Agatha's role here because Agatha told her, like, look, bitch, it took me 400 years just to do this. And
And look
you
at
just
you.
feel it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't, you're not even, it's like Nick Cannon and drumline. You can't even really shoot this. Like Wanda wasn't studying, and Agatha was mad at that. Versus, in comparison to Doctor Strange, that's all he did. He got on reading books, and the famous like in astral form,
Hmm.
reading a book while he was asleep. So, and then at the end of WandaVision, what do we see? We see her wide awake in the chair outside. She goes to get coffee, while her astral form has like 6 books floating in front of her. While she's reading one book, and it's like, damn, like
That's when
not even
you
strangers shown to do that.
that's when
So.
you realize that she's become the Scarlet Witch,
Mhm,
or that
mhm,
she is becoming the Scarlet Witch at this point,
right.
because she has no clue of it before, and then
Mm,
Agatha turns up. Now I will say, but we have someone commented, "Oh, what's up, man? How's it going, Jermaine?" He said episode 4 is the big shift, but the first 3 were interesting. It was different. Yeah, so it's not. I agree. I actually liked the first few, but it
mhm,
was kind of what I meant by meh was like I didn't know where it was going. It was like
Right.
this is
Just want to be happy in the
yeah.
50s.
What I liked
Happy in the
it
60s.
was making fun of the sitcoms.
Yeah.
But then when they showed the reference to the sitcoms, I was like,
Mhm.
oh okay, this is pretty neat. Um, but hold on, I have a spam in my chat. Let me just block this person. Sorry about that, guys. And then we'll pick it up. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Let's go back to my notes here. So you were mentioning Agatha about the part that she
Yes.
played in this one. Now, I
Yes.
actually would have liked to see more of Agatha
Same.
because so I think it was interesting how they had that. Oh, she was kind of pulling strings from behind the scenes.
Mhm.
I personally would have thought it would have been cool for them to reveal that earlier, and
Okay.
then we kind of like, oh my god, it's her. When are you gonna realize it? You know,
Yeah, like
because
come on
Agatha did
now.
such a good job that she didn't even realize that she wasn't controlling that lady. You know what I'm saying? That's how
She's
powerful
walking
Agatha is.
around.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So within the hex, no one else no one else does well inside the hex. We see what happens
Hmm.
to the sword agents when they get
Yep.
swallowed up as she increases the size of the hex.
Hmm.
And they completely lose it. But Agatha, excuse me,
Hmm.
Agatha is so powerful and she's not easily manipulated that she's walking around acting like she's a character and Wanda doesn't even know.
Right.
So it would have been I thought it would have been nice for climactic reasons to be like, for example, when we saw Vision catching on to what was going on, we're like, Vision, you
Hmm.
see? You were hoping
Like
Vision was the
finally.
hero. Exactly.
Hmm.
Do you see what Wanda's doing? And at this point with that, I wanted to just be like, Wanda, do you see what Agatha is doing? But
Hmm.
they still did an
Hmm.
okay job in revealing Agatha. Um,
I mean, thought she killed the dog, man. That shit was cold blooded. Can't kill the dog, bro.
yeah,
What are you
that was
doing, man?
wild. That was wild. But
Hmm.
but that fits her character, man. She's like a Cruella Deville. She don't care. She
Hmm.
doesn't. She does whatever. Um, so I thought it would have been. I thought it would have been interesting to kind of see if people had known before,
Right.
on on who Agatha was or what she was doing.
Right.
You
Right.
mentioned
Right.
White Vision earlier. You
Yes,
know,
I thought that was a brilliant exchange, like they had, and even so to show like where the normal people were at, because it was Tony Stark, you know, building Vision, and then in Wakanda when Shuri was putting it back together, Shuri was like, "Why didn't you just do this, this, and this?" Mark Ruffalo was like, "Ah, shit, what do you think?" You know. So, but then translate that to Sword. All that was for Sword was what $4 billion, he said, and the scientists just made Vision.
straight
You
up,
know,
yeah.
and that was like,
That shows the
going.
advancement of technology within
Mhm.
the government agency.
Right?
Um,
Because if we
yeah,
nerd out and go back to Iron Man 2 or whatever, or Iron Man 1, where he was like exposing them, how far they were behind just building a suit.
hmm
The government was like 20 some odd years from like they had that one suit that just turned around, like put that on his back or something like that. Like they were leads behind them, but now we're rebuilding Vision. So what does that mean for the future? Or we just
si-
can just pump those out, you know what I'm saying?
and they
So
didn't just make a suit of armor; they
like,
made a
yeah.
synthezoid, like an
It made
actual.
sense.
Yeah. So
It
that's
made vision. Like, come
exactly.
on, man.
Um,
Ridiculous.
so I think that leads us into what did WandaVision introduce into this phase
Mhm.
of the MCU, and it was a lot. Okay, so
Okay.
one, and let me know if I miss any. Sword.
Go ahead.
Sword seems
Yeah.
to be our new government agency that's replacing Shield.
Mhm. It's here now.
Exactly.
You got a
And
little bit of it in Spider-Man, like out in space,
and
but then
in
they talked about it in WandaVision for years.
yeah, we're here. So it looks like Sword is replacing that. If it's not replacing Shield, I think it's going to be the main one for this phase.
Mm.
We introduced to Agatha Harkness,
Yeah.
who is a very very powerful witch who practices dark magic, and
You see, Wanda didn't kill her off. She just kept her,
yes,
text for later, you know what I'm saying? Because she has that power over them.
she's going to need to learn too. And in the
Absolutely.
comics, Agatha was the Scarlet Witch's sort of teacher.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
is it going to be eventually they have a, I don't want to get too into comic stuff, but eventually
Right.
they have a realization and they fight it out or whatever. But
Right.
um, Agatha kind of shows her. I mean, and we see a bit of that when
Mhm.
Wanda learns about runes. She didn't know
Hell
shit
yeah.
about runes, but then at the
Hmm.
end, she trapped Agatha in the runes. So we
Uh,
already see Agatha's influence or teachings are already paying off. So I think it was
mhm.
a smart decision to keep her on Wanda's behalf, and I think that's
Yeah.
why the directors and writers decided to do that. So we have Agatha, um, and we'll see what part she plays. Maybe she will be with. Maybe we'll see her again in the Doctor
Mhm.
Strange movie that
Man.
Scarlet Witch is supposed to be a part of. Um, One of the things I'm really excited about is
Mhm.
we got a look and a cameo. I don't know if you call it a cameo, but we got a look into the future Captain Marvel or
Mm.
Spectrum as they like to call her.
Mm.
And I thought
Man.
that was cool.
That was brilliant for every part of the culture. That was brilliant.
That was cool. I did a post earlier um on Facebook, and
Mhm.
I don't want to get too social justicey with it,
I
but
feel you. I feel
what
you.
I
Go
thought was
ahead.
cool is because my daughter's African American,
Right.
and she was watching WandaVision with me, and she
Yes.
saw Captain Rambo. She calls her Captain
That's
Rainbow.
powerful.
And she was like,
Hmm.
"Look, she has hair like me, and she has like my color." And
Hell
like
yeah.
nonstop ever since there, when she talks about superheroes, she talks about Captain
Mhm.
Rainbow. And
Yeah. That's
it's going
what's
to be
up.
nice to see her watch Captain Rainbow become or evolve into the hero
Mhm.
that, whatever they decide to take with, whether it's
Over
Spectrum or Captain
years.
Marvel over years. Yeah. But she
Hmm.
has representation and someone to look to, and she was
Yep.
excited. And I thought that was powerful. I was like, wow, kudos. But I'm excited for her because of that scene that we got at the end of WandaVision, where,
Yes.
and it kind of takes us back to Monica Rambo's relationship with Carol Danvers.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
they say like, oh, there's a meeting, they want to meet you in the stars. And that was if you remember at the
Man.
end of Captain Marvel, the little girl
Hmm.
Monica is looking
Yep.
up at the stars.
Yep.
And
And
so
now
she
she's
does that
gone,
too. So I
man.
thought that was very powerful. So it's like, oh man, they're setting up a new Captain Marvel or Spectrum or however they're
Hmm.
gonna take it. So that was pretty neat. um so the other ones that was White Vision that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And with White Vision, I'm kind of wondering what part he's gonna play.
Hmm.
I don't see him being good. I don't see him being bad. I see him being
Hmm.
practical because what he
Okay.
looks like to me now is just vision without emotion. And we
Hmm.
know emotions can drive certain decisions. But
Hmm.
you know, but when we see things like, for example, and I may cut flack for this, if you look at it from a logical standpoint, just basic
Okay.
numbers, Thanos wasn't technically wrong.
Okay.
There's
I can
resources,
agree with
a
that.
limited amount of resources.
Yeah.
They're using all these resources. How do you do it? Eliminate half of the problem of the people or
Hmm.
the things that are consuming these resources.
Hmm.
Numerically and logically, that makes sense. Okay.
Hmm.
But like, no, you can't kill off people's families, like emotionally and morally. No, that's wrong. But now we have
Hmm.
Vision without the emotion who's just analytical. This
Hmm.
is what it is. This is what needs to be done. This is how we can do it. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So is that a good or a bad thing? I think it depends on which
Shit.
circumstance.
I mean, we touched on that earlier on with Ultron when they beat him up, and Ultron came to tell him like, yeah, like one leg, one arm. Ultron was like, "Why are you defending them? You know what they're gonna do." And this was lines like, "Well, I was born yesterday.
Yeah.
Let them learn." Back when he first got Stone and Bit, and Ultron was like, "Fuck, man." I mean, they blew him up. But yeah, like you said, now it's just really objective. Like Vision gave him the memories to give him identity,
Hmm.
and he flew off. But
But they're just
like I
they're just
said, man,
memories.
yeah, we're just here now. So
Hmm.
without the emotional connection, or when Wanda runs into him again, it's not going to be the same at
No,
all,
I don't think
you
so.
know. And or is it like Wanda's going to be like, you got one chance to come work for me, or that's that ass, I'm gonna turn you into a hot dog or some shit like that.
Yeah.
So
But
I like to see.
we
Mm,
see that in almost any sci-fi adventure that includes robots and
true.
humans. I finished playing the Mass Effect series, and
Oh. Right, that's a
robots.
whole nother fucking.
That's a whole other
But,
thing. Yeah, but
but
the preface of it was the problem is humans and stuff are going to pretty much
mhm.
kill themselves and eliminate everything. So we're gonna kill
With
off.
the gap,
We're
right?
gonna
The
kill
gap
them
in the
off.
coordinates.
Exactly. So so any robot, like you mentioned Ultron, or you design a robot and say solve this problem, is like, well, the problem are you guys, so we're gonna solve it and kill off you guys.
It's
You know
all
what I'm
that shit.
saying? Yeah, yeah.
Hell
So
yeah.
that's what I'm worried about, and I'm kind of worried and interested to see where they're gonna take White Vision. Now, other than that, we see fan favorites Jimmy Woo, our favorite FBI agent,
Man,
and Darcy
the
Lewis.
cartridge now.
Darcy Lewis. They're like, whenever you see them, I don't even. It's not even comic relief. You're just happy to see him in
Hell
pretty
yeah.
much anything. So that's pretty cool. Appreciate that host. Thank you so much. Now, so these next ones that I'm going to talk about, I don't know for sure. It's more of a hope.
Okay.
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 And this is to deal with the children, her children, Billy and Tommy.
Okay.
If we're going with comic books,
Right.
they
It's
are
small.
it's Wiccan and Speed.
Mhm.
If I pronounce Wiccan correctly, or Wiccan
Yeah.
and Speed, and they are part of the Young Avengers.
Mhm.
So this is kind of just me thinking, is it possible that they tease the Young Avengers
Shit, man,
because
Marvel's widely building,
they don't exist
across the series.
outside of the Hex? But with Scarlet, but that was with Wanda just being Wanda Maximoff.
Mhm.
But is it different now that she's becoming Scarlet Witch? Would it be
Shit.
able to exist? I don't know, but that's just, I don't think there's any backup to that. I'm just kind of throwing it out there, you know. And then I'll get more into that on the next show that we talk about.
Okay. Okay.
But you mentioned at the end, Wanda is practicing dark magic,
Mhm.
and she's becoming really
Or hell,
enveloping
just any
herself.
matchup. She had all those. She's just reading now, and
Yeah.
the fact that she's educated now or getting educated is a whole problem. Like, the
What does
fact
that
she's
mean
getting
for her
refined.
character, though? What do you think?
So
Is she
I
gonna
believe
be? Is that a pro, a con? Like what?
I believe it's gonna set up a con because before Agatha got bodied, she's like, oh, the Scarlet Witch, and then dropped the tagline, stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme before she started doing that shit. So that was like, okay, we just have that inference of that's how strong Wanda can become.
Mm-hmm.
And now that she's reading about all these things that Strange read about, Strange was trying to get forbidden books week one, until he shows up in Infinity War, multiplying
Yeah,
magical equipment
but she
while
has.
holding back.
Is it the Book of the Damned? I think, or
I
the
think it's something
Chaos.
like that, yeah.
It's Chaos magic. It's a
So,
different it's a different power because you're
and
dealing
apparently
with
the most
chaos.
powerful form.
Yeah, you're dealing with chaos
So,
magic here, while you have Sorcerer Supreme or Doctor Strange dealing. It's more energy manipulation and things like that.
yeah, I think that's a
So
whole con now because as we go on and talk about other shows, like, you know, so we're gonna if we're gonna I'll save it to the next show because I'll save it to like the further shows because there's things in other shows that kind of put that into context in terms of like what she's bringing
mhm.
and then what they were trying to accomplish. Because what she's on, if she's gonna just be on some I'm a chaos agent wherever I go, it's what I say no matter what. Well, that's definitely a problem considering, what the Sorcerer Supreme and their whole organization is supposed to do
Mhm.
and what other characters had in mind to do to prevent other things, from happening. So, and she get the kids. So now she'll be fighting
Yeah, yeah.
everything with the kids. So it's gonna be insane.
Yes, definitely. We're gonna see more of her because she's a key figure in the
Hell yeah.
the next Doctor Strange film that we're gonna see. And Doctor Strange is my favorite Marvel superhero. I've
Mhm.
always liked the magic aspect. Yeah, you can
His movie
smash
was
things. You
brilliant.
can, Hulk is badass. Iron Man's suit is incredible. But I've always enjoyed the more mystical, magical parts of the MCU, and that's what I like about
Hmm.
WandaVision.
Hmm.
It really brings to light how much magic and power
Yeah.
is involved in the MCU. I mean, we
Yeah.
see, when we had Thanos and Doctor Strange battling it out with the glove. Doctor Strange was going toe
Right.
to toe.
Casually.
Thanos came up overhand, but I think I don't want to get too much in the previous phase, but Doctor Strange already knew how it had to go down, so my dude lost on
Right.
purpose to me. I'm just saying.
I'm saying he held back, and Thanos even called him out. He's like, "Why didn't you use your stone? And keep
so
alive." like,
so we see how powerful, and without that glove, Thanos would have been toast. You know what I'm saying?
like
But
like Doctor Strange turned a black hole into butterflies. Like, and casually just let it go to the next
it
scene.
was
Come
pretty
on.
too. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my, yeah. No pressure, no, he just easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I like how it sets up how prevalent magic is in the MCU.
Hmm.
And the one thing that I kind of want to see is I think there needs to be some kind of accountability for what Wanda did, because don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
she has been through a lot,
Hmm.
but she enslaved people. She literally enslaved people. Like that's
Yep. Yep.
and kind of like and don't get me wrong, there was
I
no
think that's
no
what
way
Sword is.
Monica Captain Rambo was
Hmm.
gonna do anything about it. You know what I'm saying?
True. Very
But
true.
I feel like there kind of needs there should be some sort of answer to that, because that was a bit too far. And I know her
Hmm.
ending wasn't like happy go lucky, but it was still
Hmm.
like she enslaved like a whole town. So it was kind
She
of
just
like
gotta go chill in the mountains, like
yeah, you're not gonna go drink
go
coffee on
fly
a
away and chill.
yeah
But
yeah
but
um
that realized the tension though, because as an Avenger now, and we know, even though like he wasn't in there, whatever, we know Strange picks that up. At this level he is now, someone, if not him, maybe Jerry, maybe what, maybe even Mordo, because he's still back. He's talking about taking magic away from everybody. He's still on that place.
mhm,
Someone picked up what the hell she was doing, especially if it's chaos magic,
yeah
especially that. So therein lies that conversation. Next time she sees Strange, maybe if it's just a sling ring to the cabin and it's just like, how are you doing? That's like a, now Wanda's defensive. Like Wanda knows why he's there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what are you
yeah
defending? And then are we gonna fight? Are we gonna talk about it? Is she gonna teach him? Vice versa?
yeah.
You know, there's
It'd be
tension
interesting
there
to see
now.
how it turns out between those two the
Mhm.
next time they meet, because that's power
Mhm.
on another level. You know what I'm saying?
I'm saying,
Um, but okay, so recap on WandaVision. We
yeah,
introduced Sword, which seems to be um,
our new shield.
our new shield, our new government
New shield.
agency, and it was
Yes.
founded by Maria Rambo. We saw
Hmm.
her in the Captain Marvel movie, and then we got an introduction to Agatha Harkness, a witch who
Yes.
practices dark magic. We got a preview of
Mhm.
how Monica Rambo found her powers. I think it was interesting how they did that versus the comics.
Very
Um,
beautiful.
and you know, with that end scene after that, we know that there's more destined for Monica Rambo. We
Mhm.
see that Billy and Tommy, we saw them. This is just a speculation for me. Are they going to use it for the Young Avengers? We don't know. Um,
Shit.
and then now we see White Vision is on the loose. We don't know what that's going to mean, but or when we'll see him again. But that's what's going on
Straight
with
up,
WandaVision.
he fly a sword in space. Who knows?
Who
You know what I'm
knows?
saying? Who knows? So,
That takes us to our next show that we're going to break down, and that is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Okay.
okay. I'm
Now,
gonna be nice.
be nice. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not gonna be. See, I don't want to be too biased because like you brought up the, touch on it right quick. So I wanted to get transition to the next one. The what Wanda brought, like you said, Hulk was all beat him up. Captain America's throwing the shit out of it. It's all beat him up, shooty blasting. Wanda brought hard magic. It's not always about who's stronger than what. Literally my emotion to make me feel this way is having an effect. So I go back to Falcon Winter Soldier. And first thing I get, the Libya mission. That was cool. For those that can watch Falcon, fucking Adventure, that was pretty tough. Can't cross the border, boom, boom, okay. But he's doing his thing, he's trying to get over. So if I go back to Captain America saying, take the shield, it should be you, boom, boom, boom. Sam was like, all right, yeah, I guess. Bucky's like, good on me. That kind of summarized Falcon and Winter Soldier. At the end of the day, you know, he ended up accepting it, and Bucky ended up getting over it, doing his thing. Bucky, even though they elaborated to his journey, but it was granted due to the nature of their powers
Mm-hmm.
or the lack thereof. It was more beat 'em up and more of the same from the previous race.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what I will give them is they really dove into Wanda kind of did, but focused on Wanda, but they really centered on post blip life. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yes.
5 years done. You know, I can't get along, and then their children can't. Doesn't Tony Stark have you? And then they're like, not even aware of what the hell happened.
Yeah.
But then not just that, and talk about social justice even before, literally being a black man in post blip in the Avengers, and the cops still came on. I'm like, who,
And being
didn't
the
know
not
who he
only
is.
the new face of the Avengers at this point, or
Yeah, so I like how they did that. That was very well done, and when they kind of focused on like that was cool. And the Bucky Wakanda connection. When the door showed up, I was like, oh, okay, fine. We gotta talk about this.
yes.
Yeah, it kind of healed up and left, but thanks to T'Challa, the first thing T'Challa does after he opens the shit up, war comes in, he gets erased. Half of Wakanda, well, we didn't see any die, but when the Sims family's got some bodies, and they get attacked, and Thanos wipes out half the world. So to them, after they let Bucky get on, all this shit happens, and then she comes back. It's like, hey, and then team up with Zemo. The next thing you see, like, what the fuck are you doing? Give me your arm. And she cuts him, does that badass move, and his arm falls off.
yeah.
And the whole Marvel world's like, you can do that? You know what I mean? So that was way more entertaining than, you know, and to be, I might catch flack for it, because I know mental health is a big thing, nothing to joke about and everything, but Sam's having an identity crisis. Like, he already gave his shield. Oh, why are we having this here? Your sister's saying we need help trying to sell the boat. No, we could, blah, 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 blah. It's like, bro, the time you're wasting dealing with this stupid shit is the time you could be, trying to solve some real, problems. Seems like we have to kill her. She's gonna keep buying.
yeah.
Oh, we can turn her. We can turn her. She caught more bodies. U.S. Patriot's friend died. And then they had to fucking take care of her eventually. But yeah, it was Falcon himself and the transition to Captain America was outshined by, I think, the story, like the overall story, and then what he was connected to, because that
Mhm.
made me want to deal with, okay, what's Wakanda like? When they went back to Wakanda talking about like he's doing this and this, what's going on over there? I'm already looking like, can we take a trip over there? We're flying everywhere else. Can we fly to Wakanda and do something?
Yeah.
So, you know,
I
that's what I was about with them.
I agree with you on the point that the transition from Falcon to Captain America and accepting the shield
Mhm.
was kind of drowned out by other aspects.
Mhm.
It's cool now, it's cool
Yeah, like it's
that
still like
Captain
a suit,
America, yeah. But I was more, maybe this was their goal, but I was more invested in, um, you know, the a lot, not Elijah. Damn, I can't remember the guy's name, but the older guy who was one of the black super soldier,
Mhm.
one of the original ones,
Yeah,
that they
before like
experimented
Cap and
on,
all that.
and I like
Mhm.
that, and
Isaiah.
Isaiah, yes, I like
Yep.
that aspect of the show, um,
Mhm.
because it reflected what life was like, and it
Mhm.
shows, um, overcoming what life is like now, and
Yes.
then proving to yourself, being a role model, and
Mhm.
of an African American man becoming
Mhm.
a face of
Captain America.
America, essentially.
Mhm.
So that was
Mhm.
that whole journey was big. I also liked the mental journey that Bucky went through.
Mhm.
For me, the first few episodes or first couple ones, I felt like Bucky carried the first two ones, because I was
That
invested in his story,
man,
about him
that
overcoming being,
flashback.
yeah, that was harsh, and to find out that
Ah,
was that was the
yeah.
dad of the son, I was like, damn,
Mhm.
this dude is really facing his demons. He's really
Mhm.
trying hard to heal. Now, um, I I I thought they portrayed that well, and the last is, I really like Zemo. I really like Zemo as a
Oh
character,
yeah,
because
man.
he to me has kind of like this suave villain kind of
Mhm.
deal, um, and he's another practical person, you know,
Mhm.
to where, of course, he has his evil deeds, he has his ideologies, but the reason he doesn't want the super serum to exist, because he knows that it's going to be used
Right.
to it's going to be used and
Eventually.
abused. And you
Right.
mentioned it before. Zemo's like, we need to kill her. We need to kill her. And he's like, no, I can save her. We need to kill her. And at the end, you had to kill her. Like that was so Zemo's willing to do what it takes. I mean, we even saw him and his butler, shit, what's his Osnick blow up the last of the people with the super soldier.
Smooth.
So
Zemo in the jail cell hearing the news, and he's
like, he's smooth, bro. He's smooth, and he know that jail cell was just a vacation for him at this point. Actually, I think he's with the Wakandans, maybe. So I don't know.
Right.
But
shit.
But you know, even at the end, I was like, what's gonna happen with there's super soldiers leaving? What's gonna happen with them? Are they gonna become part of a thing? Are they gonna get? And I was like, oh, well, there we go. Problem solved.
So with that though, that I mentioned before, I also liked the focus on like in the post-split world, but the power broker, on like Captain America's, the niece he was fucking with before he went back to whatever, she and her whole deal and how she's gonna, I guess, follow some illegal shit, prototype.
She's gonna cause problems. Van Camp, yeah.
So it's like you have her doing that on top of what, I would say not so much WandaVision and how in terms of like Sword was getting down military wise, but seeing how the legal system worked in terms of what they were doing. Because the Civil War, it was the Accords. Talking about accountability, it's like, okay, you guys have to do this, or you have to answer for this. Like, someone have to pay for this shit. But here she is, she gets these Accords, she gets pardoned, and she's in the position to finagle the Congress and how she gets to do what she has to do. So now we're going to see the law, like we're seeing the law come into play. But they were futures before him, Bucky, Rogers, whatever, in Civil War when they were mass prison before he broke them out, whatever. That coincides with, Black Widow when we get to that. But that's the side we get. Okay, it's not just superhero shit. All of a sudden, there's rules. Like there's still rules in the United States of America.
But it also shows that this whole series, not just Falcon and Winter Soldier, but other stuff isn't just superhero shit like you mentioned. There's a political aspect to it. There's a social justice aspect to it. There's we see that
laws of magic.
Exactly. There's laws. There's order. In all the chaos. So we see here that they made a political statement that a lot of people, I would say felt with recent elections is like, well, shit, like politicians don't do shit. Like stuff needs to get done. Nothing's getting done, and so on and so forth. And then we see Emily Van Camp being put into position of power. She's corrupt as fuck.
On the phone the second she walks out.
How many politicians do we know like that? I can guarantee you a lot of people can probably name some. You know what I'm saying? So it brought in, I think Falcon and Winter Soldier was spellcasting, all that shit. That's MCU. That's not real. Falcon and Winter Soldier, the ideologies behind them were real. They were more relatable. And I think that was the biggest positive of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It was relatable to those us who are watching in every day because the message behind it resonated with a lot of people. And while I thought the series was enjoyable, I mean, get me wrong, you can give me the worst Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, I'll still like that shit. Just because they have their cinematic action and their fight scenes are good.
Yeah, they're standard.
You know what I'm saying? The least it can go for me is probably like a 5 out of 10, and that's even fine with me because I'll just enjoy watching people get punched. You know what I'm saying?
I feel that.
But having more than just that was what this show had, what helped it.
We got it from each aspect too. Like in terms of everyday people, we got the everyday guy, in John, right? He was an everyday military officer. He was decorated by their decorated officers. He got to step into the role of Captain America, and he saw like what that is for him, the mental torment he went through, and just trying to live up to it and everything.
It's a lot to live up to. Yeah,
right. He got the serum, and he realized it wasn't about the power. He still got whooped up by Wakandans, and he's like, he even says, "Damn, like they serum." And he sat there and like, and they picked up the iconic moment where she picked up the shield, like the first came over to pick up the shield, and then Homer said, "Drop that shit." And she fucking left it and walked out the room. I'm like, yo,
Yo,
like that message was crazy.
it was.
Like,
It,
man,
it was.
and then Brandon, go on.
Sorry. I
I
wanted to touch
could.
on the Wakanda part. It was interesting how, like they kind of let it go, and they told him they were like because he kind of got this power in his head, like, oh, I'm Captain America, I'm Captain America. But but Captain America, the real Cap, was more humble than that, you know.
Way more, right?
And so that was something that he had to learn, and that Wakandan situation was supposed to humble him, which didn't. It just pushed him more over the edge. But we saw that play out, and we're like, all of us in the audience were like, dude, you're about to get your ass whooped. You're about to get your ass whooped.
Had the nerve. Oh my
Yo, once he laid the hand on the shoulder, we're like, ooh, he did what?
God. Because not even Scarlett Johansson did that. Not even Black Widow did that. They just stared at each other. You can see that shit. They wrapped it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was symbolic, like one day there's this contention with, interracial dating and everything like that. So to see, in
That last
America
part,
place
that
hands,
last part was a little hard to hear from you. Can you repeat that for me?
yeah. Oh, I was saying, it was symbolic in the sense too of that, when it comes to like interracial dating and like the past, things like that, to see like the American representation, like to see him specifically, blonde hair, blue eyed John, touch the door like the Queen Warrior, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
to think that's just okay to then kind of get that beat down, I think that was a good symbol just for not just feminism, but like the condition,
Mm-hmm.
where uh, women are today, and more so like Black women, to see that power, like you can't just touch me, like don't. Who said that you were entitled to touch me? So now you get hands. Like here it is,
Yes.
serious hands, because he felt that he got the power from his bottle,
Mm-hmm.
as Iron Man famously said. But yeah, it was great. I love that beat. Most of the best part about it. I love how Zemo was just kind of like,
Yeah, Zemo knew what was going down. He knew what was about to go down
I'm not a
because
part of this shit.
not even Zemo tried to escape or fight him off or anything. He just
Oh,
knew what was going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
man, y'all
That
got
dude
it.
straight up El
Ted
Chapo'd it
said
and
his teeth.
dipped.
He minded his business. He's like, damn.
Yeah. Um. So one thing I like about I can't remember the actor's name, and I feel bad if anyone's watching in the chat. If you can, please look up the guy who played U.S. agent. Um.
Oh, fuck yeah,
But
please.
I think he did such a great job with that role
Man,
because you hated him
yeah, I did.
and you were supposed to. You were supposed
Mhm,
to. You were supposed to look at him and be like, "You're not Captain America. You don't have what it takes. You
mhm,
don't have the character." But then after at the end, we'll get into that a little bit deeper a
mhm,
little later on. But at the end, you were kind of like, "Okay, I'm okay with how he ended up." At least for me.
mhm.
So
Right.
he did such a good part at being of not being Captain America. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Right.
I think he played that role very well. And it shows us that it's not just the power that makes you a
Mhm,
hero. It's the way you present yourself, the way you act, being
mhm,
humble, and things like that. So we saw an essence of what it is to be a true uh, hero, not sorry,
mhm.
not just a true hero itself, but a true Captain America, what it means to take
Yes.
up that mantle. Um, and so we saw with that failure, we saw someone who was trying to live up to expectations, was
Mhm,
willing to do anything that it took to succeed. And
mhm.
it taught us a lesson that sometimes you don't think you need what you think you need. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it took the death of his closest friend and getting his ass beat down by Falcon and Winter Soldier. By the way,
Mhm,
it was a 2v1, so give my boy some credit. He held him,
mhm,
but but it was still like you thought you needed this.
mhm.
You thought you needed to be all powerful. You thought, let's take it back to normal life. You think you need that big house. You think you need this. You
Yep.
think you need all these things in the world, but that's not what you need. Like this
Very
is what
true.
you need, and you learn that. And unfortunately, some of us learned that lesson the hard way. So that's
Man,
what I think his
it's well
character
said.
represented. So the Falcon and Winter Soldier was really really representative of almost reality in a sense, and it was really
Mhm.
relatable. And I think that's where the show shined.
Yeah.
A couple of things to point out. What does the Falcon and Winter Soldier bring to the MCU? Because that was fine and all there,
Mhm,
as a show, as an individual show. But what does it bring to you? One, Sam is the new Captain America. Okay,
mhm.
that's big. Period. Zemo is
Solidified.
back. He looks
Yes,
like
he is.
he's in jail in Wakanda. We'll
Mm,
see if that's going to play a role in the next Black Panther film. Um, Bucky is a better Bucky than he was before. He's more mentally stable than he was before. He seems to be healing well. So is he going to take more on the role of the White Wolf versus what he was before? Now, Emily Van Camp is the power broker. Now, is there
Shit.
another season of the Falcon and Winter Soldier? Is she going to be bigger? Is she just going to be limited to just the series on TV? But is she going to be bigger? Is she going to have maybe cameo appearances where they drop her name in later shows or movies or something like that? How big is she going to be? Before I get to the biggest one, I'm gonna go on another speculation, as I speculated before with WandaVision with Billy and Tommy being Wicca and Speed. Elijah Bradley, which is Isaiah's son in the show, becomes the Patriot in the comic books, and he's also becomes a member of the Young Avengers. So, were we introduced to another Young Avenger? I don't know.
Casually.
We'll see. Yeah.
Casually.
And maybe that's like MCU Phase 10, but it would be still cool to be like, oh look, we saw him the first time we saw him was way back there.
Same actors too. Like, they're dope with that. Yes, sir.
And then so the major one that they brought us is we see the return of Val, aka here we go, try to say her name again. Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine.
Okay, there we go.
She's back. And this time she's recruiting US agent. I'm like, so now we have Yelena, who wasn't necessarily part of a team. She didn't really say she was putting together a team with Yelena. She just asked her to pretty much go kill Hawkeye. And we're gonna see what happens with that in the Hawkeye TV series that's coming out on Disney Plus. But she approaches also very sinisterly. Well, not sinisterly. That was the wrong word.
It was another one-on-one.
Yeah, he was
we had to leave the room.
He was in a down part of his life, He was down, he was hurt.
Just got kicked out.
Yeah.
Government wanted to deal with him.
She knew that he wouldn't say no to this opportunity because of what he's just been through. So she picked it wisely. So Val recruits him, and this time it's not for a specific purpose. Val literally says that she's putting together a team. Now, what does that team mean? We don't know. I can speculate, for example, the Dark Avengers. Or in the comics, the U.S. agent becomes an Avenger, but it's kind of like an anti-hero version of the Avengers, or a villain version of the Avengers, kind of like a Suicide Squad almost. Sorry to mix DC with Marvel, I apologize, but the idea is that you have bad versions of these heroes.
Right.
So we don't know, or maybe they're gonna be like, the unsung heroes that do good work. I don't know. Man. That leaves a lot to be desired, but you see her again, so she is going to be a major part, and she's putting together something for sure.
Absolutely, I agree.
So that's the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The next one leads us into my personal favorite of the three.
Man, shit.
And now we're on to Loki.
Let me preface this, man. For all those, because I still see people on the timeline. They haven't seen it yet. I don't even want to watch it because I want to watch because of it doesn't be boring. Interesting, man. And for all the years he had to play the side man, probably the best case of being a leading man ever. Damn near almost better than Robert Downey Jr. He carried it for 11 years. He had 6 episodes to do what he had to do. Only 6.
Yeah.
And then taking all the lore with it and starting from fucking New York. You know what I'm saying? To that.
So technically that would have been the first in the in chronological order in this on our show. But as we get into it, the timelines we see in Loki are all fucked up all over the place. So we don't even know where this is when or where this is taking place.
Right.
But I agree with you. Loki did a really good job. We've seen him have been a side character, a villain, a trickster. We've seen him be an anti-hero. And no matter what people did, what he did, we wanted to like Loki. We wanted to like him. And he has a cult following. A lot of people do like him. And he did a great job in the show. And we're gonna talk about the end because that's probably one of the biggest things so far. But it's crazy because Loki literally exists to fuck shit up, and they fucked shit up. They fucked it up. Like Loki did what Loki does, bro.
The masterful writing of Marvel to have that come together. Like, shout out to Owen Wilson. You know, when Mobius told him, yeah, like this is what you do. This is always what you do. You ain't
Yeah.
asking for shit else. And even with all the change and shit, with
Yeah.
the full gamut of how he was,
Doesn't matter
and
what
even
universe or
I'm
timeline.
saying, even if he made a choice, you know, even when he was like, wait, chill, you know, Loki still
Fucked it up.
fucked it up. You know what I'm saying? So like,
He even
even
came back at the
you
end.
know,
He's like, "We made a mistake. We messed up."
yeah, it's like, damn, dog. Like, we went on this whole ass journey, and then even when he brought that like right there, that line specific spot was so great with like having specific lines mean shit. Like he went to we made a mistake, we fucked up, and he was like, "Who are you?" You know, that could be simple. So I'm like, yeah, change it, but like even the change of what happened in the timeline, like they don't know you're
He realized how much he messed up.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
yeah, like for them not to know who he is means like either he wasn't born, like when the frost giants white because of what happened. Had like that had a huge cataclysmic event had to happen for just that variant of a to not even be known in that TVA because they know everybody that
Mm-hmm.
comes to except for him. So it's like fuck. So yeah, and that's oh man,
So
it was crazy.
with the show, there brings me some questions and speculations.
Mm-hmm.
So just to give an overview, we see Loki has been captured by the TVA.
Yes.
Is it the Time Variance Association? I could have that wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, Tom Hanks Authority Associate, whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah. We
But
know they're the police.
they collect variants who are going off the timeline, and
Mhm.
they do a great job at logically. We start realizing that Loki seems like the hero in this case because he's
Mhm.
captured, and then he runs into Sylvie, who is another Loki who did a great job, by the way.
Mhm.
And then we realize that there's thousands of hundreds of other Lokis, even a
Man.
damn alligator at this point. So which stole the show, by the way. Um,
Yes, it did.
so we're seeing that the TVA is taking all these variants, and
Mhm.
then that we think that it's a noble cause that it's supposed to be. This is how the way thing is supposed to go. They stop it from creating chaos, but then we find out
Mhm.
later that wait, these people had a life before. These
Mhm.
people, like this is all a facade.
They were
Um,
just fine,
yeah, they were
you
just
know.
fine. They were all variants at one point. At one
Mhm.
point, and that they don't have a recollection of their life. And then it
Mhm.
evolves to okay, Loki's are now the heroes of
Mhm.
the story. But then it gets
Yeah.
to the end, and we're like, oh shit, Loki fucked up, So it's
Like, fuck, man.
so they
You
did a
know.
real job at bringing in Loki. His there was a lot of realization, and Loki grew up a lot as a character.
Mhm.
Um, but in the end, it's a Loki still messed up. Um,
Right.
and that's what, like you said, is powerful. That's what Lokis do. So,
Right.
talking about the show in the show itself, without tying in
Mhm.
the rest of the MCU,
Okay.
I thought it was a good journey for Loki
Mhm.
to become something less selfish. We'll say.
Mhm.
Um, be Mobius was a fantastic character. He was very passive, very intellectual, but very easygoing too.
Mhm.
So it was kind of like um, there was like a trust factor there, and then it got to
Mhm.
the point to where they had Loki in the time loop jail cell, and then it was
Right.
like, how can I trust you? Mobius asked, how can I trust you? And Loki's like, well, don't trust the Loki, just trust the words of a friend and whatnot. So we see Loki
Mhm.
grow a lot, mature a lot as
Mhm.
regarding friendship, trust, and not being so selfish. We also
Yes.
see him actually care for something else or someone else other than himself to an emotional level to
Mhm.
where he sets off an alternate uh, branch.
Well,
And
yeah, other than himself, right?
yeah,
But
but it
you
is
know, so
himself.
that's the crazy part. Yeah.
It is himself. So
Mhm.
that ties back into Marvel doing what it does best. That yes, he's grown. He's something loving someone other than himself, but it's still technically himself.
Yeah, but like
Loki's gonna
shit,
do
you
what a
know.
Loki's gonna do. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mhm.
um, but I think that added to his emotional journey, because
Mhm.
it affected his decisions that he made at the end. When it came
Mhm.
to when he was going one on one with Sylvie, the female Loki. Um, we see we see these people who come to the realization that there is more, that they've been lied to.
Yes.
And then we're like, oh shit, these people have been set up. There's a dark villain behind it. But then we get to the point at the end where we realize like maybe there is a good reason why this is going on right now.
He ain't really like dark for real.
Yeah, maybe
You know,
maybe there's a reason for it. And so now we're introduced to who everyone assumes, or not everyone assumes, everyone pretty much knows, is Kang the Conqueror. Now the question is, well, Kang gives a good description. He's, there's, we see that there's all these timelines that happen. You branch out from the timeline. At some point, these people met up with each other. Some versions of himself were nice. Other versions were bloodthirsty, and were not so nice. So he created this TVA to keep a timeline steady. Now, when Sylvie enacts revenge and ultimately kills the Kang that we see in Loki at the end of Loki, all these timelines start to go haywire. So now Loki is teleported back to Sylvie pushes Loki through a window or whatever the hell you want to call it, and he gets back to the TVA. Turns out at the end we see the reveal of a big statue of Kang, and
already there.
Kang the Conqueror is now, I would assume safely, possibly our main villain, our Thanos of the MCU, of this phase of the MCU. And the way they brought him in, I think was perfect. And I don't think there was any better character to bring him in. To be a part of that. I'm hoping that they don't just, that it's not just part of Loki season 2, and that there's I'm hoping that is because we have Ant-Man and Quantumania, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, which has to deal with a lot of alternate universes. We have Doctor Strange and the multiverse. Then we have Spider-Man, No Way Home, I think it is. That has a multiverse. So we see that a multiverse is the theme here for this MCU phase.
Yeah.
So I would assume that it's safe to assume that, I'm saying a lot of assumptions, but Kang the Conqueror would be the main villain for our phase. What do you think?
See, I definitely agree with that. And to touch on like Loki being the perfect character to bring it in, like this is the Loki that was in handcuffs, fresh out of New York. He had just got done working for Thanos. Thanos gave him that Tesseract. He went down there. He lost Space Cube. He left. So that's the Loki worker. He didn't get Ragnarok. He didn't get all that. He just all he did was watch it. Asgard blew up. Thanos chokes me out. Oh, that's it. Fuck that. Let me speak to the timekeeper. And that was his whole thing.
Yeah.
So then the next deal he gets, timekeeper's like, hey, just work for you. Work for me. Take it. You can have it. I don't want it. So you have a Loki who just dealt with that Thanos shit. Now having the big bad tell him again, gifting him the power, like Miss Spinach trying to finesse him.
This would have been a better power than the Thanos was offering, because it seems like the guy was literally wanted him to keep it safe. And the guy and Kang that we saw said that he paved the way for them to get there.
He's like, I wrote this for you here.
It was funny.
Miss Spinach tried to finesse him. Like Miss Spinach was like, you want to go win New York? Get the stones? Fuck it. No. I'm fine.
Yeah. It was funny because he's like, you're flesh and blood. And he's like, yeah, I am human. Yes. Like that. You're exactly right. Yeah.
But yeah, so Loki was definitely like, key for that, because who else would know what that's like? Getting hand in the Infinity Stone, seeing himself not shit in the TVA, except the first thing he went for, and there's a drawer full of stones and in their paperwork. So he's like, okay, well, fuck, to then having the growth to say no, but well, he wasn't gonna say no. He was gonna take the mantle and try to run it, whatever.
I felt like he was trying to do the right thing.
Yeah,
because even he told Sylvie, he's like, wait, hold on, something worse can happen from this.
Let's not kill him. Do anything but kill him. Let's just wait, stop. Then she said, "I know you." Which is so dope, because at the end she's still a variant. So after all, Pumpkin kissing, we're Loki's behind. He pushed him and then goes to stab him. So that was damn, so because when this Loki comes back now, let's say he finds his way back to the line, this is still the Loki from New York in the spaceship. So they're gonna see that, and they're not gonna believe him. They're not gonna listen to him. You're still an ass, like you're still in Finland, as far as
Yeah.
that timeline knows. So he's gonna come back and be like, shit, like, and then he has to deal with that,
So
or if he's hopping across different shit, I don't know. But
question.
mm,
Now, obviously, there's nothing we can answer today because we don't know. But
right,
here's a wild theory:
okay,
Loki is in a separate timeline now. It looks like
okay, yeah, like the whole.
where
This is
Kang.
Kang rose to power here. The
Yeah,
Conqueror rose to power, not he who remains. The
it's
Conqueror
not
is in power now.
exactly, and it's not to say
Mm,
that because he's obviously not in the same one that he left from,
right.
or I would assume that.
Because
So
all the lines are bleeding now.
yes, so is it to where is it going to be a thing where the timeline that Loki was in,
Mm. The
um,
sacred.
yeah, the timeline that Loki was in. Excuse me, I'm trying to gather my thoughts. Is over here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other one that he's been projected to is over here.
Right.
All right. Now, the heroes over here,
Mm-hmm.
Loki finds some way to contact them. They're like, "Shit, we need help. This timeline's gonna bad." And then the multiverse allows them to connect to this one and help Loki. Because I assume this universe is doing fine, maybe because
Mm-hmm.
Kang seems to be in this one.
Well,
Unless Sylvie takes over this one, I don't know. It's a lot to think
see,
about. You know what I'm saying?
she's still in
She's
the
still
end of
there.
time. By their definition, all timelines lead to the end of time where she is.
Gotcha.
The way it looked though was because it was splintering beforehand, and then he's like, I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen when he was still alive. That's when they what she killed him
He
and it
really
starts.
like laughed and said, "I don't know what's gonna happen. I
Yeah,
don't
when
know."
she kills him, and you see all them bleed, and you see some go through others, whatever,
Oh, so
whatever.
they
Is
start
it like,
intertwining. Gotcha. Okay.
yeah? So is it like, okay, is that where we get like? Because even in the very explanation, there's, oh, if someone does something, they go on this path, and sometimes they can just fall back in. Like, is that where you see Spider-Man swinging down through the city, and then another one just happens to come around the same block, and they're like, you know, is that way, or is it like when Strange gets to it, he can be like, oh, if we want to go to another universe, I see this energy thing over here. He can like swing through space because there's a space thing. It's not like a time thing.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to verse thing,
Yes.
because with Wanda, and she was the first little like 1+1 version of it. Wanda had her own dimension in our universe, but she was time period. So he's hopping through time periods, 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
She was manifesting it. So take it to Strange and appreciate it Dormammu, how that worked. Dormammu was in
Being
his
able to
own
actually
dimension.
travel between them or through
Yeah,
them. Yeah.
right. So Strange was able with the stone to use the concept of time to beat Dormammu because Dormammu didn't know what time was. He was outside of it. So he sees as him however many times he killed him over and over and over till Dormammu felt like he was in a jail. He's like, wow, leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, bringing it back to Loki, it's like with all these lines blending, and then like say like the heroes have to try to contact the Loki has to get a message across. I want to see if it's going to be more time based, if it's time, being the foundation for the space that's created,
Mm-hmm.
and or is it because here in this TVA, I can only speak to the spaces that are within this
This
line
branch.
of yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, because Sylvie just casually sent him. She didn't know she was sending him back to when they came from where she
Oh,
just like
that could be a
pushed him
good
through.
point that
You
she
know what I
thought
mean?
she was
So,
sending him back to their one, but
mhm.
there's branches intertwining, so accidentally
Yeah.
he like was going here, then got caught up in this
Mhm.
branch and just flew somewhere
Because the
else.
lines were
Yeah.
splitting before she killed him. So he just got sent back to whatever. So
So I mean, it could be
she
a
didn't do
thing
shit with
where
it.
all these different universes are getting effed up, and they realize, okay,
Mhm.
let's just team up and save one, and then we could start
That
over
might
from
be
there.
it.
You know?
Because
Yeah.
that's what old dude said. He who remains was like, yeah, eventually when I got to it, I had to create this energy monster, Alliance, Galactus, and one Final Fantastic Four, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I had this energy monster and embodied them. They didn't know what to do with it. So I hear energy monster. I'm thinking Wanda could come in there. If Wanda can get to this universal scale and realize she can do what she wants and see how far she can stretch it, she may be able to fuck in with Strange's help or not, or maybe what their clash creates in an infinite loop of whatever time that they're going to use. Because Strange has this stone now,
Mm-hmm.
according to bring Captain America, bringing it back. Let's see if he uses it or not. That could be the route. You know, Loki may have to get that message when he said something about energy monsters, that they enchanted, but then Sylvie's still there in that little office room.
Yeah.
So if she's gonna do
So I'm
about
curious. I'm curious with Sylvie. Is she just part of Loki's TV series, or is she gonna play a part in the MCU
she probably
overall?
she has to
Because
because she's
she's
there.
she's at the end of time.
Like
If
he was just
that's
sitting
yeah,
there. Like,
true.
a full window of just watching everything. You know, is that where the final battle's gonna? Because now we're dealing with characters where we can't have them on Earth anymore. They're gonna like, so we're gonna have to take this battle to this realm, to this
Yeah.
time. We're gonna have cross versatile battles. Like I'll punch you in 1940, and then you'll end up in 2345 on another planet. You know, I'm gonna spell you from this era and feel it back in the 30s. You know, or some
Hmm.
shit. Like it's too much.
We can assume also from past experience that um,
Mm.
Hank Hank plays a major role in this, or at least his inventions, because we see him with
Mm.
Ant-Man with creating the quantum realm, not creating,
Mhm.
accessing the quantum realm.
Yeah.
And then we have this Quantumania. We can
Mhm.
assume that it's going to also play a part in how our heroes can, because Doctor Strange could do it,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
he can take people with him. But is this a
Mhm.
way that they're going to be able to travel between realms and whatnot,
I
or
mean,
time periods? I don't know.
Ant-Man's the rules. Like we talked about earlier, I would feel like if that's the case, because like so how the whole plot of Endgame was Ant-Man, let's just put them back using quantum theory. You know, all these atoms are the same place, and you just one moves, the other moves, whatever, all that shit, instantaneously, whatever. That might serve as the rules for it. You
Hmm.
know, they can't because what are the normal people gonna do, right? And it's like, look, I can't go punch him. I can't do this. We
I'm
can't
not
even
gonna
reach
punch
him.
himself into another realm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
gotta jump through the quantum realm and we can meet them on this planet. We gotta jump through the realm again. We can meet them on this universe as long as we have like, special particles or whatever. Everybody stood up again. Because
yeah,
like, what's he gonna do? What's Falcon gonna do? Captain America? What's Captain America gonna do? What's Bucky gonna do when they get in a fight? For them to fight, they have to follow them
yeah.
across this kind of battle. And
This
they
is gonna
gotta
be
keep up.
It's gonna be
You know?
scientifically and magically
Yeah.
driven for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I
And
think
that, that I feel like that's what his purpose is gonna be.
a lot of the MCU Phase One was a lot of who could punch the hardest. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And now
Mm-hmm.
now I think it's taking a little shift to, you know,
We have to figure this out
yeah,
because there's so many. Like, you
who's
can't
more
just
magically
touch.
powerful or scientifically knowledgeable. You know,
Mhm.
um, I think Loki kind of, all of this combined, and Loki kind of solidified it for us that
Mhm.
this next phase is going to be a lot of multiversal stuff.
Yeah.
And that Kang the Conqueror is possibly our big villain.
Right. Because it's like,
Um,
how did he even bring that in? He had to conquer all the heroes. So for him to be where he is, like the scope of what he's dealing with versus the scope of what like Falcon Winter Soldier are dealing with. It's
yeah,
like how do you tell them about this? You know,
yeah,
that's the problem Iron Man had. Iron Man was the first one through the portal, and he saw Thanos' ships, and then he came back down. He was like, "I need to build Ultron." They're like, "What the fuck?"
trust
And
me.
he started building it until it happened. You
Yeah,
know, and he's like, "Well, I built it for this. Y'all don't know what's coming. Like, y'all didn't see it." You know, and that was the thing. So now
and
that
Loki's
Loki's
the
the
one who
first one to see
knows
it,
right now.
yeah.
He's the only
So
one.
if Iron Man got that reception, shit, you
That's a
think
good
of
point.
all people, when going to Ragnarok, where or the ending show, the ending scene of Doctor Strange, where Doctor Strange was already on Thor, he was like sitting in the chair, like, "Why are you on my planet? I'm looking for my father." "Oh, if I have to find him, you're gonna leave?" "Yeah, that's work." So taking this Loki, when Loki runs into him, that interaction in Ragnarok, Doctor Strange already had it. He was setting through the portals, he had fallen. For Loki to come back and be like, "Look, I
First of
Strange
all,
isn't
Thor's
gonna
gonna be
have
like, "Wait, I saw you. Aren't you dead? I saw you get choked to death, literally."
I'm saying,
Yeah.
like, Doctor
Even
Strange is
Hulk,
gonna have you
even
like
Hulk backed
that.
down from that fight. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But
So it's gonna be real,
yeah,
so much tension there, and then just their interaction versus And then all three of them, they all have to come together, and whatever Wanda's on is going to be what she's going to be on. And Loki's going to have to get exposed to that, because then Doctor Strange going to ask him, okay, like, what did you see? Because if we're going off of what Sylvie did and all these timelines, right? Take it to the end game. Doctor Strange says, I see 14,605 lines, whatever. If we take it, like, try to keep
Was that
it
only on
somewhat
that timeline, or all the other branches?
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. If we try to keep it chronological, this is the Loki from New York. What happened with Sylvie and them was before Endgame. So by that time,
Oh, so
Strange
you
and
mean it's like now quadrupled by that number
I'm
or
saying
whatever?
so. If Strange had the wherewithal to see 14 million lines when Kang was supposed to keep it at one, we can kind of inference Kang was dead by the time Endgame was happening.
That's
And
crazy.
then Loki's question was when he was first arrested, he was like, "Oh, but what about those fucking Avengers?" Da, 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 da. Loki's like, "They're doing what they're supposed to do, so we don't fuck with them." So why? And it makes sense. Why wouldn't Kang interfere? Because when Thanos hit the snap, half the bodies in the universe got destroyed. So off rip, that destroyed
Kang knew
Kang's
King knew what was
whatever
gonna happen.
whatever variant was gonna pop up to fuck with him. Thanos took care of it for him. Yeah, I'm gonna let him rock. And
Yeah.
Iron Man just bring it back. So then tie it to the point where I know there's this thing on YouTube where like you sync up WandaVision and Loki, Wanda becoming the Scarlet Witch was like his realization. But
Oh,
my
that's true
theory,
because sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you just
no,
made
you're
me
good.
realize something. That's true because
Mhm.
Doctor Strange knew what it took. Kang knew what it took, and he knew
Right,
everything he knew. But he knew it before Loki escaped with the Tesseract because that wasn't supposed to happen.
right.
And so that's why he's with the
So,
TVA. So everything
hmm
happened as according to plan. That
hmm
bad things do happen, but there's a correct flow to things. And Kang
yep,
at the
and
end of
got
time
fucked
knew
up.
how it was supposed to go or how it was going to
Yep.
go.
Until he didn't, which that's why I feel like it wasn't so much Wanda, becoming a witch. I'm thinking if it's in the flow of the time and the snap and whatnot, and what happened, boom, 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 because like he was still alive, and then he was like, oh, we just crossed the threshold. I don't know what's going to happen anymore. But Sylvie was still in her seat. Loki was still calm. Even if he knew she was going to do whatever, that the line was still intact because that was what was supposed to happen. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm thinking. Maybe Iron Man snap, bringing people back, and then in turn bringing the variants back that could have whatever to get Kang. That could have been it. Because who was erased when Thanos snapped? Wanda was gone you know. So if that's the premise of that, the King Batch brings her back, then Kang's like, shit, I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. It could have been that, because you hear the boom echo out in the end of time.
Mm-hmm.
So Wanda becoming the Scarlet Witch in Westview, New Jersey, isn't gonna reverberate the walls of space and time. But the
Something
universal
big happened.
snap,
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Yeah, the universal snap from the fucking gauntlet and everything.
So you think
That's
that
something that
so
could
you
fuck
think
with me.
that boom was probably one of the big was the
I
snap.
think that's when
Okay.
Kang was like, shit, I don't know what's gonna happen anymore because y'all fucking do some ill shit.
Y'all fucked shit up, yeah.
Like y'all, you got please take this shit from because y'all are supposed to get snapped, right path, live how you're supposed to live. Iron Man was chilling, everyone just accepted that they went kill Thanos, and then they were like, okay, whatever. Until Ant Man was we can go through time. They weren't supposed to, even in Doctor Strange's world. In time, ancient one told me about the time like that. He used to stuff on just whatever, guard, so you weren't supposed to really fuck with the line like that at all until,
Gotcha.
and then, Kenny had selfish reasons for guarding his own line because there's nothing wrong with having multiple lines, just he didn't want, like, keep him to get by there, whatever. Now we're starting to see the responsibility of keeping it to just fucking one
Yeah.
line. You know what I'm
But
saying?
that goes to the point where we thought this was some bad malevolent
Yeah.
creature
And he wasn't.
that was doing it, but it was like, okay, no, he has a point. We probably shouldn't fuck with it,
Mhm.
guys.
If you think I'm bad, wait till you see my variants.
Exactly.
Like all of my variants are trash. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, man.
So
I think that was huge, like real huge.
definitely. definitely, and you actually brought some new ideas that I have to think about it and consider too. But overall, I think I think we have a good setup. Loki kind of solidified that we're dealing with a lot of different universes or
Everything's in.
timelines, excuse me. Um, we're possibly dealing with our big bad MCU villain, which is Kang the
Yeah.
Conqueror, and we're seeing how Loki is going to get tied back into the story, to the MCU, because he's definitely not done yet.
Yeah.
Um,
He's the
there
only one to get the official season two
he's the only one who
snap, you know.
knows what's going on,
Imagine.
because
There's
Sylvie knows, but Sylvie can't leave because then no one will be there at the end of time. So I think Sylvie's definitely gonna have to stay there. But like you were in, Iron Man was the only one who knew it at that time in the previous phase. Now it's Loki who knows. So Loki has to find his way back to whichever. So we'll see how that plays out. But a couple questions with Loki that we have is, what role is Sylvie going to play? What is going? We know that there's going to be a season 2, so we're going to be looking forward to what happens in season 2. So we covered a lot today, a lot of stuff. We've covered, in general, we know that Val is assembling a team. We don't know what for, but Contessa is up to something. We have to see how that is. 2, we know it's a multiverse. We have a villain, what we think. We have a new government agency, Sword. And then we have an introduction to new heroes. So we have a lot of that these initial shows and movies set up. Upcoming movies this year that are going to give us some more ideas. One thing that I know you're super excited about is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Dude, it's bad. Shang-Chi's badass. Okay, probably the master of kung fu, and we're gonna have him in. It has its own movie. And I was kind of wondering how how that movie was gonna tie into all of this, because we were talking about it's not just punch and kick shit now. Now Shang-Chi, that's what Shang-Chi is known for, punching and kicking shit. Now he can control his chi energy and stuff, but then that's where the rings come into play, and the rings apparently are cosmic powers. So we're seeing again, it's magic. A lot of this has to do with magic and technology, cosmic shit. Okay, that's not just punching and kicking. So I'm excited to see that. We have Eternals. Okay,
Hell yeah.
that everyone's asking.
Jon Snow returns.
Yeah, right. We're asking you, where the fuck were you guys when this shit was going on? You know what I'm saying? But maybe they knew, because remember Doctor Strange left shit how it was. He didn't. I think he could have done something different. He could have probably, if not beat Thanos, at least scared him off or some shit.
Put him in the mirror dimension or something.
He knew the one thing that had to happen, and he even signaled Tony, like, this is it. This is the one chance. You know what I'm saying? So
wait a minute.
So maybe the Eternals were the same thing. Like, look, we already knew how it was going to come happen, so we're not going to interfere. But we'll see with that. We have Spider-Man No Way Home, which is
that's huge.
Spider-Man is a teenager now again, I think, in this one. And so we're going to see more of the multiverse shit. And there's still a lot of stuff clouded with this, because we don't know if Andrew Garfield's coming back. Tobey Maguire, who was a great Spider-Man, by the way. I know some people may not think so, but I would give anything to see a real live action Spider Pig join this one. Be like, oh, multiverse is real.
Happens to be there.
Yeah,
Tom Holland will carry it.
Exactly.
So the one to fucking.
I know Sony still has rights with Spider-Man, but obviously this is far fetched. But it'd be pretty cool if end of that movie, Miles Morales comes out of nowhere. You're like, oh, you know what I'm saying?
Man, he got mentioned in Homecoming,
But we have a multiverse, so anything, literally
Loki,
anything could happen right now.
Yeah.